Hello and welcome along to the first Sports Rundown betting preview show of the season. How are you getting on tonight, Gary?
Yeah, good, LB. Good. You?
Yeah. Oh, good. It's our first. I think it's the first time we've done a Sunday show since the end of season extravaganza we had last year, the end of the
Yeah.
football season. It was a pretty good one, I must say. At least for me, it was a good show. But how you're at the West Ham match tonight? How did that go?
Yeah, it was pretty good. So West Ham won 2-1. It was fairly comfortable overall. Didn't really need to get out of second gear. Everton played well for patches of the first half. So they started off pretty well. And then West Ham got on top, took the lead. By half time, it could have been 3 or 4 to West Ham. After halftime, Everton come out and start playing well again. It was more, actually, it wasn't even Everton playing well. It was West Ham were just toxic for the first kind of 5-10 minutes of the second half, allowed Everton back into it. They looked like a fairly decent team, got on level pegging, and I was pretty worried. I thought Everton might go on to win it. But pretty quickly after that, Michael Keane got sent off, and West Ham went 2-1 up, and that was kind of game over. So, it wasn't the greatest game I was ever at. If I was an Everton fan, I'd be fairly worried. Obviously, they've got a couple of games in hand on teams below them, and they'll probably still stay up. But for the quality of player they had on the pitch, I said 25 minutes of the game, they looked half decent. But for an hour, but maybe a little over an hour, they look very poor indeed. So you can't really do that in the Premier League. Like, if you're not on top of your game, the level of teams are going to punish you. And I said West Ham didn't really need to get out of second gear. It was probably the perfect prep for Thursday, in that, they got a win, they got a bit of a confidence boost, but they didn't have to go all out to win it.
Yeah, I'm speaking of red cards. What did you think of that Cresswell incident?
Yeah, but it was on the opposite side of the pitch to me. So I just thought he tipped the ball against them. But then I saw it back afterwards, and I mean, I've seen red cards given for them, but at the end of the day, I don't think. Well, the replay I saw had no sound on it, so I don't know at what point in that act the ref blew the whistle, or whether he did blow the whistle. But it looked to me like Richarlison kind of moved the ball with his hand, and that's why Cresswell kicked him in the face. So I said,
I think if he hadn't got the yellow card, he'd be getting a 6-match ban for it. It was flagrant.
Do you think? I said I don't know. Like, I was on the opposite side of the pitch. It was so far away from me. Like, you couldn't, like, as I'm on the other side of the pitch, but at the other end of the pitch as well. So it was like as far away as you could be from where I was sitting. So I couldn't tell.
I mean, one of those ones that looks awful. Like, he's never going to harm him, but yeah, I think be very lucky to get the yellow card, so they can't go back and look at it. But
had the ref blown his whistle for the foul, he had when he was there. Okay.
It was purely out of frustration. I don't know. It was so late in the game. It seemed very, very odd. I didn't watch enough of it now to know if Richarlison was at him all game or something, but it seemed like a strange reaction. But anyway, he got away with it, so not to worry.
Richarlison did get an awful lot of easy frees, but there was no real bite to the game, despite having a sending off, and what you were saying probably should have been a second sending off. There were actually, it wasn't that dirty of a game, do you know that way? I thought Keane's 2 yellows were 2 definite yellows, like, do you know that way? And they were probably only his 2 fouls all game, but there were 2 certain yellows, and the ref really had no choice there. But I said the Cresswell thing happened so late and so far away from me. I didn't really get the pieces together, but I'll try and watch the highlights in full later on, and I might change my opinion on it.
Yeah, well, wouldn't be like you now to change your opinion on something, Gary, but we'll leave that one. So anyway, look, after that long sideways move on the West Ham match, we've got a few things coming up tonight, so we're going to talk about tomorrow's Monday Night Football, Crystal Palace, Arsenal. We've got 4 Champions League games, 4 Europa League games, 4 potentially Conference League games, the Masters, and some entry at the weekend, and then maybe some look-ahead lines to the betting value next weekend. So we call those long shots there. Well, not the right phrase, but they're a good bit away, so we'll have to take them with a pinch of salt. But first up, any betting success this weekend, Gary? I obviously follow Sports Rundown on Twitter and saw closely the pain that you had to endure in the EFL over the weekend.
Yeah, so like my main bet was obviously the accumulator I put up on Sports Rundown, and that it got off to a terrible start. Couldn't have got off to a worse start with two teams behind early on. I think after about 20 minutes of the games, my cash out was at like, I don't know, probably 20p or something like that for my tenner bet. So it didn't look likely at all. And then by half time, I started looking a bit more likely, and going into the 85th minute, all the teams were winning, which was great. But a 96th minute, 97th minute goal in Tranmere and a 99th minute goal in Blackburn put paid to the bet. So I ended up getting 2 out of 4 in that bet. But it was a kick in the teeth because I thought the bet was home and hosed. In the Blackburn match, there was officially 6 minutes added on. So I wasn't watching it live. I don't know how it got to 99 minutes, but it ended up getting to 99 minutes for that. And then Tranmere had kind of held out. They went 1-0 up, went down to 10 men, conceded an equaliser, got back in the lead. So I thought they were going to hold out as well. They're usually I said it in the article, they've one of the best defences in the league, especially at home. So it's surprising that they conceded 2 goals and conceded that late. But it was a kick in the teeth for me. And also, I kind of would like to see Blackburn go up this season. I've liked how they've played. A few of their players, I think, are really good, and I like Mowbray as a manager. So, if you're a Blackburn fan, it's a real kick in the teeth because those 2 points could be massive given how tight it is there in the Championship.
Yeah,
and they've gone from not cementing them places, but giving themselves a bit of breathing space with the playoffs. To still just being on the verge of the playoffs, and another bad result in the run in, and they could find themselves finishing 7th or 8th and not getting in to the end of the season. So yeah, a bit gutting if you're a Blackburn fan, but even more gutting if you backed my bet this weekend. So
yeah, I didn't do too much betting myself this weekend, but I backed everything on the site, so I obviously suffered your racket the same as you. Savage's Liga articles, he's 2 out of 3. I think he's going to stay that way. He needs 2 goals in the Barca match, and it's probably less than 10 minutes left. And then Enzo's first of the weekend. Oh, he had Napoli. I backed Napoli straight up at 2-1, and they won, but he had the long odds juice there that didn't come in. And now the Juve Inter Milan match, which I've got on the background here, it's 1-0 Inter. It's probably going to be the biggest robbery of the season if this stays 1-0. About 10 minutes left, and it has been it's been all Juve. Hit the post, balls cleared off the line, VAR review, penalties, absolutely endless chances, and they just keep failing to score. And Inter got a penalty in the 5th added minute of the first half, so they're winning 1-0. It's 85 gone there, so wouldn't mind a late equaliser, but it's probably not going to change my weekend too much. So a decent weekend, but without really doing a huge amount either. So right, so moving on to next week, or this coming week, we've got Monday Night Football, so the last Premier League game of the weekend, Crystal Palace at home to Arsenal. Gary, do you have any thoughts on that game, or any bets that you're looking at?
I haven't picked out any bets yet because I think there's a few key players for Palace that have a few injury doubts. Like Mikel Elise is a kind of a player I've been following for a while. Really like him. I know he's kind of 50-50 for the game. So I'm going to wait until closer to the time to look at my bets, probably just as the team sheets come out, or maybe a little bit before when you hear the kind of rumors about the starting 11s. But it should be a great game. I mean, you got the storylines like Vieira going back, or Vieira against his old club. I know it's at Palace, isn't it? So Vieira against his old club. You've got Arsenal in form, obviously pole position for Champions League if they can win their games in hand. Palace, up and coming kind of young team. A few of the young lads have gone into the England squad now. They're starting to build a bit of momentum. So, and again, the games involving Palace are usually decent atmosphere. So, I'm really looking forward to just watching it, even without the bets. But I'll definitely pick a bet out tomorrow. Over 2.5 goals, I'd say, is probably a certainty. Given the attacking threat of both teams. So I'll probably throw that in there. But I think it's a game you can just sit back. For me as a neutral and just watch it and enjoy it. I know you'll have your colours with Arsenal, but what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I probably won't back it. I mean, they're away and they're even money or even slightly odds on with some places to win the match. It's not really worthwhile. But it's one of those things. Look at it, if you take Arsenal over the last sort of 4 years, there's no way you could trust them odds on in an away match against a team as kind of tricky as Palace. But then if you take them over the last 4 months, I mean, it looks like they should win it comfortably. I mean, I know we watched the Arsenal-Liverpool match together when they lost a couple of weeks ago. I think that's the only time they've been outplayed probably since the reversal to Everton back in late November, early December. At even money, I probably won't back him. It's just not worth it. One thing that does stand out, though, to me as a good bet is Odegaard to have a shot on target at even money. He's taking the free kicks and he seems to be actually getting a lot more accurate with his free kicks the last couple of 2 or 3 months. He scored for Norway during the international break. He's been in great form for Arsenal over the last couple of weeks, even by his own standards. So I think, with free kick duty there in a game that you're saying, you expect over 2.5, as do I, it'll probably be open. A lot of attacking, generally leads to a lot of frees. You kind of reference Palace being a young team and, they can make mistakes. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal got a good few free kicks, and with him on duty, I think a shot on target, even if it's comfortably saved, looks like a good shout at even money, and I'd certainly take that over the Arsenal win at evens. But if you look at Arsenal's results over the last, I think, 13 games, it's only City and Liverpool that beat them, and even the City game was pretty much, the referee resulted in them losing that match. So I'd be pretty confident that they'll win it, but 19-20 or whatever is going around, it's not worth backing. And like you said, it'd probably be a good match. Sometimes those Monday night footballs never live up to the billing, but I have a feeling that one could be a pretty exciting affair. So my money will be on Odegaard, and that'd probably be the extent of it.
Yeah, no, I said it's going to be a thrilling game. Just while you mentioned Odegaard, I was chatting to a lad today, and he was saying he thinks there's an angle there for Haaland to join Arsenal if Arsenal get the Champions League spot.
I saw that.
Haaland and Odegaard are good mates.
I saw the picture of them doing the rounds, and Odegaard was whispering in his ear, and then I don't know, I think one of them put it onto Instagram, and one of them commented something about trying my best or something. I'm kind of filling in the gaps there. I'm not sure how accurate all that is, but yeah, rumors about it. I don't really believe any of those rumors after I fell hook, line and sinker for Arsenal to sign Joe Cole about 12 years ago, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great, and then just turned out goal.com made it up. So I don't pay them much heed now, but look, I've seen clips of Haaland speaking, and I know there's all this talk that he'll go somewhere for 300 million and all that, and him himself has said a lot of things about basically he doesn't really care for the money, and he's just going to go where he's going to be coached, and where he's going to basically improve as a player. So it's slightly more believable than any other player you'd ever hear of, but I just think when it comes down to it, if there's an offer into Dortmund for 250 million and Arsenal offer 40 million and £1, I just don't see them making the deal with Dortmund. And then him himself, as much as you might say, oh, I'll follow the right path as opposed to the money, I think there's a few clubs out there that be able to offer multiples of what he get at Arsenal. So I wouldn't believe it, but it'd be nice to see him. It'd be nice to see him in the Premier League. He's the sort of player you'd want to see week in, week out.
Well, I think the Premier League has to be his next step. Like, for a player like that, if you want to get the recognition, you need to be in the Premier League. So I think now is time to go. And then if you look at the team, so like Joe, he's probably not going to go to Chelsea given the position they're in.
No.
And they have Lukaku and Werner and Havertz and a lot of attacking threats there.
Like they won't be able to afford them. It's as simple as that now, will they?
Yeah, exactly. City, he could go there, but I don't know whether he's going to fit their style. So it's between United and Arsenal, really. And I mean, if you're a player sitting down now, I know there's been false dawns before at Arsenal, but like there's no comparison now. If Arsenal get Champions League, you've got Arteta doing well, a lot of youth around you. It's the only place you go. Like, they're going to be playing attacking football. It's not essentially a full rebuild that's going to have to happen at Old Trafford as well.
Yeah, no, a player like him, he can't waste 2 years for United to rebuild. He just has to slot into a team that's already. I mean, United won't be in the Champions League next year by
exactly. Yeah,
it's
looking in the Europa League at this stage, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as the table stands, they won't be. So, well, speaking of top performing teams and big squads, there's been a bit of good news this week for the teams at the top of the table with the 5 substitutes being approved for next season. Now, I know you're not a fan of change, so you're probably not going to like it, but what do you make? I mean, before we even get into the actual rule itself, I can't believe that there was 13 teams apart from Manchester City who voted for that rule, because it's going to serve nobody. Maybe them in Newcastle who can afford to have 2 starting 11s. I think it's a strange one to even happen. Never mind the validity of the rule itself. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I hate it. Everything about it, I hate it.
Yeah,
it's not even it's a Jurgen Klopp thing. I despise everything about it. The fact the team can go and change half their team.
I looked at it this weekend, right? And City started up. Take out their back 5, right? They had Grealish, Phil Foden, Sterling, Gundogan, Rodri, and Kevin De Bruyne, right? They go 2-0 up. They could have taken off 5 of those players and brought on, from their own bench that they had on Saturday, Jesus, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez, Fernandinho, and Zinchenko, which is probably one of the top 5 midfields and forwards in the league, sitting on the bench. So you could fully change your team at half time. I think it's good. The way I see it is like the continued Americanization of European football. It's so bizarre. Like, you could go to goal down, bring on 2 centre forwards to get back in the game, and then score a goal or 2 and take them off and bring on 2 midfielders to shore up for the last half an hour. It's just, it's going to. Part of me likes to see when a manager changes the game at halftime. You know, Henkes at Bayern and Ferguson used to be really good at very early substitutes that kind of drastically change the game. But that was because they were quite good at what they did, not because they were able to spend hundreds of millions to have a full.
Yeah, but it has to come out. It has to come at a level of risk as well. Do you know, if you're exactly. I don't know, you're at Teta tomorrow and things aren't going well a half an hour in, and you make a double substitution either just before halftime or halftime, like, you're at risk then of, you know, a couple of players getting injured. Your keeper goes down injured, you know, and someone else gets injured.
John O'Shea ends up in goal then.
Yeah, you know, like, it's kind of the jeopardy of it is like, I don't want to be wasting my subs early in the game because I don't know what's going to happen in the next, you know, 45 minutes or even more than that. But as you said, now it can be proper tactical, throw on a few strikers, take them off. It just doesn't make any sense. There's obviously money involved. Obviously, they've turned around and said, listen, we'll give you a share of revenues or something like that, because, as you said, I can't understand how other clubs voted for it. Anyone outside the top 6 who's voting for it, it's Turkey's voting for Christmas. Like, you know,
I don't even think the top 6. I don't see how Arsenal or Tottenham could think that rule suits them, because Arsenal or Tottenham, you look at the table, they don't need that much help to beat the teams below them, and there's a massive gulf between them and the teams above them. Even if Arsenal finish 4th or Tottenham finish 4th and they reinvest, they're still 20 points behind Man City and, you know, 15 behind Liverpool. They're not going to compete with those. I don't even think Liverpool, it suits them. Like, Liverpool don't really have that depth of a squad. I mean, you know, if they're playing
they don't,
City,
but again, but they do have, they don't have like depth in terms of like all-star quality, but they do have the ability to bring on the Hendersons and the Milners and stuff who, if you're ahead in games, it will help shut up shop, like, you know, that way. But like, it's the teams, again, just from a West Ham perspective, and there's going to be more teams out there than West Ham that are affected by it. But like, I'd say most of the season, West Ham have had teenagers on the bench.
Yeah.
And when you get to your 5th sub, maybe even get to their 4th sub, it's an 18, 19-year-old coming on, no experience, or maybe, I said, maybe it's a good thing, maybe you get experience, but I just think there's a lot of clubs out there that haven't got the benches of quality to be able to be playing. They haven't got the squads to be able to live up to that. And it's just going to mean that, like, the gulf between the top 6 and the rest of the league grows. And I said, you probably say Newcastle will get into that top 6 if they go and spend 500-600 million in the summer, you know. But the other teams, it's just it's shooting themselves in the foot. And yeah, I don't like. I know it's kind of the only league in Europe that doesn't have it, and
but the other leagues in Europe don't have that. Maybe France with PSG, but like, there's no other league that tries to sell itself as this. Anyone can beat anyone on any day. Like, there's no pretense in the Serie A that, you know, Salernitana can beat any of the top guys, or that Getafe are going to be beating Madrid and Barcelona. But that it is a part of the Premier League. And another thing that I've thought about is you're going to see the likes of these not quite as bad as you'd see in American sports, where there's like defined role. Like you'll have different formations of sitting on the bench, and you could make 3 subs, bring them on. You could big target man like Giroud and 2 wingers, and if it doesn't work, take them back off and bring on 2 kind of inside small players. I think it's going to be terrible over the longer run. But
yeah, and that's it. It's the guise of player welfare.
Yeah,
it's just like, well, if you have this depth of squad and you have these benches, then just don't play the players who are tired.
Yeah,
like City should be able to go out there and they can. They could play, as you said, a midfield today and a midfield on Wednesday, totally different, but not have that much of a gulf in class by changing, let's say, all 4 midfielders. Whereas if you take a Brentford, you take a West Ham, you take, I don't know, an Aston Villa, and you say, right, change all 4 of your midfielders. Like, you're going from a team that's able to compete in the Premier League to probably a team that's a good team in the Championship. Like, that way,
I couldn't.
Massive growth and quality. It's not keeping. You're not replacing 50 cap internationals with 50 cap internationals. You're replacing them with potentially up and coming youth, but usually just someone who's like untested and throwing them in there. So
I would nearly say City substitutes at the weekend. Jesus, Silva, Mahrez, and Fernandinho are probably better than the 4 that started in Grealish, Foden, Sterling, and Gundogan. It'll be a disaster. Anyway, we're on the same page there. I think something neither of us are looking forward to.
Going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. So the next one up then, Champions League football. That's back with a bang this week. Tuesday sees the first games up. So Tuesday we got Benfica, Liverpool. You can see the odds going across the bottom of the screen. Man City, Atletico is the other game. Both kick off 8 p.m. GMT on Tuesday. So before we dive into the games in particular, any bets you want to call out on those, Gary, or you're still just kind of feeling them out?
I'm still feeling them out. I think I will be looking to see, as anybody who's probably watched the show will know, I'm a big adult rap fan, so I'll be having a look to see what he is to have a shot on target. It's kind of game that he might show up in, Benfica against Liverpool, but overall, it's hard to back against Liverpool. I think in that they should probably steamroll Benfica. So it'll probably be a no-bet game for me. The City Atletico game interests me. I had quite a bit of success in Atletico versus United with card betting. So I need to do a bit of analysis into the referee there, but I'll definitely be going to do a couple of doubles and trebles of yellow cards. I know it's normally in the home leg for Atletico, so it'll be the second leg this angle might come through in. But if you look at the Champions League games involving Atletico this season, and you look at the amount of cards that have been given out when they're the home team, and particularly to the away side, there's an astronomical amount of cards. I think it was something like 22 cards in the group stages alone that were given out. Could be even more. So cards is the angle I'll be playing in that game, and I said I'll probably look for Tarap to be a decent 2-shot on target angle in the Benfica Liverpool game. The main game I'm looking forward to is Chelsea Real Madrid on Wednesday, but we'll get to that in a minute. So
I disagree with you completely. I think Liverpool are. I think it's ridiculous that they're 1-3 for that game. I mean, if you look at Benfica to get where they've gotten, they've had to come through a group with Bayern and Barca. I mean, they were comfortably ahead of Ajax over the 2 legs. I think that they're not. I mean, they're not going to win. They're not going to qualify from the 2 of them. But them at home, it's such a huge game for them. I could easily see it being a draw. I think the draw at 4-1 is definitely my bet there. I think it's way overpriced. Liverpool, I mean, they're obviously one of the best teams in Europe. But if you look at the 2 games against Inter, they were quite lucky in the end to hang on to not go to extra time in the second leg, and they did nothing for the first. Oh, really? They scored 2 quick-fire goals at the end of the leg in Milan that nearly put the tie to bed, and then still nearly slipped up in the second leg at home. So I don't know if they're as slick a unit in Europe as they are in the Premier League. I mean, nobody is really. Champions League is so tough. The shots on target is an interesting angle. I might follow you there, but I think I'll take the draw at 4-1. It's such a huge price, and Benfica, they very rarely lose at home. So I think I'll be taking them in that one. I don't think I'll pick them to win. I think I'll just take the draw. The Man City Atletico game, I think it's so hard to call Atletico games. I mean, they could win that match 1-0 or lose it 5-0. So I won't do the end result in it, but I can't wait to watch it. Personally, I love watching Atletico frustrate these teams. And Simeone's got he knocked Bayern out of the Champions League a couple of seasons ago when Pep was there. So it'll be kind of a good mental test for Pep to see if his guys can overcome it. So I think I'll watch that one and back the draw in the Benfica one on Tuesday. Then on to Wednesday, like you said, there's two games, very different type of games: Villarreal, Munich, and Chelsea, Madrid. It'll be a great game, Chelsea, Madrid. If you'd asked me about this a week ago, I'd have had a very different answer for you. You know, Chelsea look to be thriving under their sort of siege mentality that seems to work so well at Stamford Bridge. And Madrid had just been humbled by Barca. But now that I'm looking at it, Chelsea even money. They were 19-20 when I looked on Friday night. They're 21-20 now. So it seems to be a little bit of money coming the other way. But Madrid flirting around with 3-1 there away in London against Chelsea. I will 100% be back in Madrid in that match. I think if you look at Chelsea in a bit more detail, the great run they've had, I had to write these down. I mean, the teams they've beaten in the last while, I know they went on 8 wins in a row and it looks really good, but all they beat, make sure I get this right, Luton, Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, Lille, and Middlesbrough. They're their only wins in the last couple of months. So, I mean, as great as it is to beat who's in front of you, I don't really know if there's actually been that much about them that's been hugely impressive. And then the reversal at the weekend, I'll be taking Madrid at 3-1 or 29-10 or whatever they are on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's definitely a big price. I was kind of looking at the draw there, around 12-5. I said I kind of agree with you in terms of Chelsea. Obviously they're coming into this off a bad result against Brentford as well yesterday. So, and Madrid are on fire recently. So I can probably see Madrid being a score draw, maybe 1-1, 2-1 draw, bringing it back. And I'd fancy Madrid overall in the tie, to be honest. The Villarreal versus Bayern Munich game, I think Villarreal could be an outside shout there.
It's funny, actually, in my notes, I'd written that down. I basically said I would have taken Villarreal. They probably would have been whoever they would have played probably would have been odds on in nearly any of these matches, and I probably would have taken them to beat anybody except Bayern in this one. I just think that Villarreal's main sort of the best thing about them is they're street smart. They're so good at just not losing and managing to find a way, but Bayern are as well. So I don't know. What I've actually settled on in this one is Bayern to win and both teams to score at 9-5. I think Madrid and Man United are the only teams who managed to keep clean sheets away to Villarreal this season. And Bayern, as good as they can be, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they won the whole competition outright. They do have a very un-Bavarian sort of characteristic this season of kind of complacency. So I wouldn't be surprised if they conceded and then managed to turn it back on and win sort of 2-1 or 3-1. I don't think Villarreal will be outclassed by them. Like I said, they're very compact. They're very, very clever with the ball and without it. So I look forward to watching that game as well. I don't think they'll do it over the 2 legs, but I certainly think they'll score on Wednesday, and I'll probably just take Bayern to edge it. But you're looking at the upset there. I think it's 9-2 at the minute. It's floating around 4-1 all weekend.
So I mean, I'm with you in terms of I don't think that they'll win the tie outright, but I can see them causing a bit of a shock on Wednesday and then losing the second leg when they go to Munich. As you said, it's a tough place to go. So yeah, that's kind of my angle into it. They're 17-4 on Bet365. So good bit of value on that. What's that work? I just have 4-1, 4-1.
Yeah, but if you actually compare it to the other teams, I mean, Benfica 8-1, Atletico Madrid nearly 8-1. I mean, the fact that they're only in at sort of 4s or inside 4 shows that the bookies aren't sleeping on them either. So
there's that double of the draw in Chelsea, Real Madrid and Villarreal to win is 17-1, just over 17-1. So I'll probably have a pop off that. It seems to have a chance.
I can't not do it now that you've said it, so I'll probably have to follow that one. And then, right, that leads us on to Thursday, then, so the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. Obviously, we know where your interest will be in this one, Gary, but it's an unbelievable set of games. I'm actually more excited about Thursday than I am about either Tuesday or Wednesday. So, I mean, Leipzig at Atalanta could be 4-4, could be any score in that game. It's two absolutely teams who don't pay any heed to defending or caution. Obviously, West Ham Lyon should be a cracker. I mean, West Ham are the favourites there. I'm not sure if they're favourites to qualify or not, but they're certainly favourites in that game. I think there's an upset on the cards with Frankfurt and Barcelona. We saw it today. Barcelona really struggled against Sevilla. I think they kind of caught Madrid on the hop in the derby, or in El Clasico, apologies, and have been kind of riding high on the emotion of it. You saw a lot of teams. Arteta went back to Arsenal. They were very good, and then they kind of had a wobble it took a while then to settle. Solskjaer was the same at United. Frank Lampard was the same. Xavi, I think it's going to be the same thing. An initial boost, kind of the emotions of it, and then when the reality kind of settles back in and teams realise that it's still the same team that were struggling before Christmas, and they kind of have a go at them, I think they might struggle. I'm very surprised to see Barca odds on away in Germany, and then probably the toughest game of the week to call, Braga Rangers. I'm just going to steer well clear of that one because I couldn't call that one way or the other. So I guess we'll start with the big one for you. West Ham host Lyon in the London Stadium. West Ham even money, Gary, for the win. What you make of that?
Like, if you look at league form and the quality or the gulf kind of between the two leagues, then I mean, yeah, they probably should be favourites, West Ham. And I think the way that I said today, they ground out that result without having to get out of second gear. And they've been doing that a lot this season where they haven't played that well, but they have managed to get the results on the board. Antonio hasn't been scoring, but he's shown signs like he's going to come back to life. And I was saying to the lads at the game today, I was like, he's a player that, like, the defenders won't know what hit them. I think the Sevilla defenders didn't know what hit them when Antonio showed up. And I think the Lyon defenders are going to be the same in that, like, Antonio doesn't know what he's going to do. Never mind what the defenders trying to say what he's going to do. And I think he's kind of the trump card for West Ham. So if Antonio has a good game, I think West Ham will win. But overall, they just need to keep it tight here. 0-0 isn't the end of the world. A 1-0 victory would be great. 1-0 defeat isn't even the end of the world, I don't think, because I think they have a performance in them even away from home. Everything's there from a West Ham perspective to kind of be rosy in the garden looking to go through. Like, they don't concede that many. They never get beaten, or haven't this season got beaten by, I don't think they've been beaten all season by more than 2 goals. So, it doesn't look like they're going to go out and be steamrolled 3 or 4-0 in this leg. Would I back them at even money? I don't think I would. I think that would be underestimating Lyon. Lyon do have a good lot of talent, especially attacking talent, and they've been at this stage before.
That's the worry for me, is that West Ham, it's going to be a huge occasion for West Ham. You'd imagine the stadium will be rocking. They'll be right up for it. But Lyon, they're just going through. They get to this stage of these competitions a lot. I mean, they play a lot more of these big games, these big European games than West Ham ever have. So I wonder, will West Ham, will the occasion get to them or not? In terms of the game, I don't know if we see it going the same way. I certainly think West Ham have the capacity to beat them. I wouldn't be writing them off at all. But my worry with West Ham is that you kind of mentioned their defence. I mean, I don't think West Ham keep that many clean sheets. I know they kept them against Norwich and Leeds and Watford and the relegation fodder, but any of the more more prominent teams in the league, even Everton today, who are in pretty dire straits, managed to score. I think West Ham are not as good defensively as people kind of make them out to be, and I think if Lyon can kind of get at them, I do see Lyon scoring. I wouldn't be surprised to see it kind of finish 1-1 or 2-1 either way. I definitely think my bet on this is going to be both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals with Bet365 would be the bet for me. But I just think that it's it'll be probably more open than the kind of the way I understood what you just said there. And then if it was a West Ham fan or anyone involved with West Ham, my goal would be to keep it as close as possible. If you're losing 1-0, I'd still just shut up shop and lose 1-0, take the loss and get down to Lyon. With the tie still in the balance, you've seen it a lot of times, seen it with Arsenal in the past, seen it with loads of other teams. When you get to this stage and then they go chasing the first result and they end up quickly going sort of 2-0 down. Inter did it against Liverpool in the Champions League there in the previous round. They went 1-0 down. They pushed really hard to get an equaliser and then went 2-0 down. And that's what cost them the tie. Just take your 1-0 loss. There's still an hour and a half of football later. So hopefully West Ham keep it tight. And I just think it'll be actually kind of over 2.5 goals in the game would be my take there.
Yeah, like as I said, I wasn't saying that I think West Ham are going to win and win easily, but you can make a case, and I can see why they're even money favourites. Like, you can definitely make a case for them, but I do think that European nous that Lyon have, the emotion that's going to be in the stadium on Thursday, I think it could either have a real positive effect or a real negative effect. And can the players handle it? That's the kind of the big question. So I do think that, like, I won't have a bet in the game probably, but I think the draw would be the bet I'd have if I was going to have the bet. What's the price that doesn't make 12-5 there? I said West Ham are always good to get a goal, so even if they go behind, you're still in with a chance there. They'll throw balls into the box for the likes of Souček, and I said Antonio can cause some mayhem as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised for it to be a score draw. But I said for me, it's a no bet game. On the other matches, I agree with you about Frankfurt being kind of overlooked there. Like, I'll probably go for a draw in that game as well. I wouldn't be backing them to win, but I don't think it's going to be as easy. People are all like, there's West Ham fans who are booking flights to Barcelona already for semi-final.
Yeah.
Just on the odd chance that they it's not a confidence in West Ham getting through. It's just, if West Ham get through, the flights are going to go mental, so we're going to book them to Barcelona because we're guaranteed to be playing them. Like, so I wouldn't have that level of confidence in Barcelona. So yeah, I'll probably go for a draw there. And then the other two games, as you've kind of referenced, goals. Well,
just before.
Sorry, what?
Just before you go on, you mentioned the draw. This last four results in a row for Frankfurt have been draws, so that's actually a good omen there. But sorry, anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
And also, I was going to just say the Rangers match. I think over 2.5 goals there, priced up at 11-10. I think that's a great bet. So that's probably will be my nap of the Europa League. If you look at or of Thursday's games, if you look at the amount of goals that have been scored in the Rangers games this season in Europe, I mean, I think there's one or two that have had under 1.5 goals. They were in the earlier rounds, but the last couple of rounds, I mean, it was 3-0 the Rangers against Red Star, 2-1 in the return leg, 2-2 against Dortmund, 4-2 on the other leg against Dortmund. So there's just been goals all over the place, and I can see that turn into a bit of a ding-dong battle. So 11-10 over 2.5 goals is the bet for me.
Yeah, I have a very similar take in the Atalanta-Leipzig game. Leipzig are odds on. I don't know if I agree with that. I know they're on a good run at the minute, but they haven't been consistent all season. But if you look at both of these teams drop down to the Champions League. If you look at Atalanta's Champions League games, 2-2, 1-0, 3-2, 2-2, 3-2, 3-2. And Leipzig's Champions League games were 6-3, 2-1, 3-2, 2-2, 5-0, and 2-1. So, I mean, just absolute no regard for defending goal-a-ramas. So over 2.5 on both teams to score. That Bet365 market is even money. I wouldn't be surprised if that was in by halftime, to be quite honest. It's going to be, like, it's probably 2-1, but it could be 3-2, 3-2, 2-2, any of those scorelines. They both just go for it, and neither of them seem to have any kind of that, hang on to a lead type of thing. So, I think that's going to be a wild game. I was looking at 2-2 correct score, but that's actually 11-1, which is pretty low considering that it's a score draw with 4 goals. So I'm going to leave it off, but my prediction in that game is 2-2. So a lot of action, I think, on Thursday. I think Thursday night is going to be a cracking night of football. A huge amount of entertainment across the 4 of them. So really, really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, because on the ones I did mention there, so 2 draws, so the Barcelona game a draw, the West Ham game a draw, and then over 2.5 goals in both the other games. That's a 45-1 ACCA. So I know I said I wasn't going to have a bet in the West Ham game, but I might have to just have a sneaky tenner on that now that I've calculated the odds on it.
Yeah, those odds you'd absolutely have to. And then before we move off football altogether, anything on the Conference League, the poor sister or the poor sibling of the Europa League?
No, not on the Conference League. But we did brush slightly over EFL. So there's a sneaky EFL schedule in midweek. So I have a treble picked out for that. Now, I will be putting an article up on the website, so I'm not going to give away the full treble. So I'm going to give my first 2 legs of the treble now. And if you want to see what the actual treble is, you have to tune in the Sports Rundown tomorrow afternoon. So the first leg comes in Bolden versus Portsmouth. So Bolden are really good at home. They've only lost 4 of 19 this season at home. They've been in good form recently. They picked up a 1-1 draw against Wigan at the weekend. I think they're going to be a good bet. In this game, they're playing against Portsmouth, who overall, like, these teams are evenly matched in the league. I think there's only a point separates them in the league. But Pompey aren't good on their travels. Mm-hmm. They've only won 2 of their last 7 on the road. So you can get around even money for both, maybe 6-5. I think that's a good bet, and they'll be the first leg. And then there's a really, really good game in League 2. So Mansfield, they're playing Forest Green Rovers. So Forest Green have been kind of top of the league for most of the season. They featured a lot in my articles at the start of the season. The bookies kept offering the odds and they kept winning, so I kept backing them. They've had a little bit of a downturn recently, so they got back on track at the weekend with a 1-0 victory, but they've lost a few games that they were heavy favourites for, and they've been conceding quite a few goals in those games. So they're playing against Mansfield, who are probably one of the form teams in the EFL in 2022. I think they've lost 2 games in 2022. They were back-to-back about a month ago. But apart from that, they've put a string of wins together either side of those back-to-back defeats that make them a force to be reckoned with. I see both teams to score here as being a really, really good bet. It's 17-20. So that's going to be the second leg in there. So yeah, I said nice. That's the first 2 legs of the treble. The third leg will be added on there. I think it's about 3.5 to 1 on that double. And then there'll be a little kicker in there to increase the odds of a treble for midweek in the EFL.
Something to look forward to. Thanks for that. I'll definitely be back in those. Hopefully your luck swings back the other way after the weekend. So
yeah, could do with it.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up the football for the week. There's plenty of other action on across different sports this weekend. So this week and weekend, we've got the Masters and Aintree coming up. So we go to the Masters next, Gary. I've only got 1 bet picked out for this one. I'm not a huge golf bettor. I do enjoy it, but I don't really bet a huge amount on it. So my one, I'll come to in a minute. But what about you? What are your thoughts on the Masters? I mean, there's lines out there. Will Tiger play? Yes or no? I mean, we're not going to go down that degenerate route. But do you have any bets picked out?
Well, I do think he'll play. I mean, he was traveling down to practice. I think he'll play. Whether he'll play well or not, I don't know. But yeah, I'll say he'll play. So I've got 2. So I like to do, over the years, I've picked out these categories that I think suit Augusta. So Augusta being kind of the only major that's played in the same course every year. I think there's certain characteristics of a player's play that suit the course. So normally what I do is look at who's playing well in those categories over the last 2 years, narrow that down to a short list, and then look at their Augusta form. And whoever comes out top, I normally back them at their decent price. I haven't got around to doing that yet, but I'll do it, and I'll post it out on Sports Rundown, Twitter or social medias before Thursday gets underway. The ones I have at the minute are so Dustin Johnson. So he is a little out of form at the minute, but he's not horrendously out of form. So obviously Dustin Johnson was world number 1 not so long ago. And he was in every competition or every tournament. He was up there, kind of top 10, fighting it out for the title. So he's not at that level yet this season, but he's showing signs to kind of coming back from that. He won this 2 years ago, finished second in it 3 years ago. And most players who win it then have a lull season, and that's exactly what's happened to him. So he won it 2 years ago, missed the cut last season. I think he could come back and has a very good chance of winning it. If you look at his record at Augusta, over 25% of his rounds at Augusta are under 70, and that's what you need there, is that a player has the ability to go low and have a consistent amount of low rounds. So he's 16-1. I think it's a very good bet, 9 places. If he plays even half at his best, he'll be in contention for a place there. You're getting 3 and a bit to 1 on the place, and I said if he turns on with his A game, he could win it handily. So Dustin Johnson's my first bet and kind of main bet. I looked at Rory McIlroy. Don't think his putting is good enough for Augusta, so I've kind of glossed over him. Justin Thomas I looked at as well. I love Justin Thomas. I think he's an unbelievable golfer. Think he'll win at Augusta someday, but I've wasted way too much money on him in the past. He's so frustrating because he gets into such good positions and then he starts missing 4 or 5 putts that he should be getting. He blitzes the place. I'd say tee to green, he's probably got one of the best records around there, but he just can't get a putt. So I'm going to be leaving him out as well. So my second bet that I have picked out is a real wild card. So he's either going to land the money or miss the cut by about 40 shots, but it's Thomas Peters. So he's interesting. He's played twice at Augusta. He finished 4th 1 year and then missed the cut in his other appearance. So as I said, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a really good run of him, or he's not going to do anything. But he's shown signs, like he kind of dips in and out of form. He's shown signs recently of coming back to form. He's 100-1 with Sky Bet, and they're playing 11 places.
All right.
I think that's massive. If he brings his A game, as I said, he can blow the place apart. He's a long hitter, very consistent iron player, decent putter. I said he's 100-1 shot, so he mightn't do anything, but I want to be keeping him on side, and he's going to be back. And I'm also going to back him to be first round leader because he loves the big stage, and I could see him come out and have 4 or 5, maybe 6 under on Thursday, right, and then maybe fade away towards the end of the competition. So I haven't got his odds for first round leader, but I'll be looking at that. I'd say you probably get 50-1 first round leader. So I'll have him each way as well there.
Interesting. I've only got one bet. You kind of touched on to the point of I've gone with Patrick Cantley, and you said about putting, and just that his putting at the minute is so good that I just think that's what I'm picking it on. Obviously, he had a great season last season. He's on fire at the minute I think he's 4 top 10s in a row. He's whatever, he's number 5 in the world. He's in great kind of form, and I just think that his putting, I think if you look at all the putting categories, he's either top or top 5. I just think he's not likely to implode, and I think he's got the kind of the upside risk as well that he might get there. I think he's 18-1 at the minute. I haven't checked Sky Bet. Now you're saying 11 places. I might actually take a look at that to get that bit of value. But yeah, he's going to be my bet. I don't think I'm likely to pick a second one between now and then. If you put an article on sportsrundown.com, of course, I'll have a read of it and see if anything jumps out. But in terms of my own bets, I think I'll just stick with that one at 18. So that's it for me on the golf. When are you going to share your categories with us? You're just going to give us the result of the pick on this.
I'll just give you the result. It's proprietary right. information. So
yeah,
I can draw it like one of them is scrambling. I mean, you need to be a really good scrambler.
Yeah,
well, and one of them is, so there's more than 2 categories, but one of them is putting in terms of 3-putt avoidance is something that I think you need to have around there, because they can put the pins in tricky positions, and usually what happens to a player is they go on, think they're going to get the first putt, they miss it, they miss the one back, and then they go into a meltdown. So yeah, I think 3-putt avoidance is a major one. And I said scrambling again, you're gonna be out of position at Augusta. You're gonna take a bad bounce, or the ball's gonna spin off the green, and you think you hit a great shot in, and you end up 50 foot off the front of the green. Again, you can't let that get you. So there are 2 of the categories that I look at. There's a number of others out there, and I said then narrow it down into their Augusta form as well. So I'll just be publishing the top 10 of my results in that, and then highlighting who I'm going to back out of it. But it's thrown up some good players in the past. I've been doing it for about maybe, I'd say 8-9 years, and I haven't lost money through it. So
it's all you can ask for, really. So
yeah, exactly. It's decent that I'm refining it every year, and I said it gives a little bit of some of these things with golfer. I find are a lottery, but this helps me feel like I'm kind of justifying my picks anyway.
And then finally, before we
Cantley there, so Cantley is 18-1 with Sky Bet. The best you can get is 22s with Bet365, and they're paying 8 places.
Bit of a jump between 8 and 11, but yeah, I'll see which one. Probably at the lower odds, you're probably better to just go for the price as opposed to the extra places. So I'll probably take Bet365 there. Anyway, moving on, we've got Aintree then to wrap up the rest of the show. We got the horse racing this week, Gary. I'm sure you've got some angles here, some early calls. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I've only got two bets picked out. It's going to be a great couple of days horse racing. I've kind of taken a break from the website in terms of putting up horses because there was such a kind of swarm of information out there for Cheltenham. I was kind of just drowning in Cheltenham talk, so took a couple of weeks break, but we'll be back this week for Aintree. All 3 days we'll have bets up on the website. On Thursday I fancy a horse in the Betway Bowl, so it's Kemboy. He's about 9-1 at the minute. Andy Post, and he ran a stormer in this race in 2019 when he won it by 19 lengths. And he won it easy at 19 lengths as well. Probably could have won it further if he needed to. This looks to be his target for a while. He skipped Cheltenham. A lot of the other contenders in here, like Protectorat, have run at Cheltenham. They've run the Gold Cup, which is an attrition or race that is attritional. And that was only probably 2.5-3 weeks ago. So it's a tight turnaround to get here after Cheltenham. I think that's going to hold him to his advantage as well. Slight worry if the ground turns bad. This time of year you expect it to be good ground and sunny weather, but it's been fairly cold and miserable in the UK over the last couple of days. So that's a slight concern, but I think 9-1, a decent each way price. Like I wouldn't put you all back into win either, but each way you should get a good run for your money. And I said he's my bet for Thursday. And then the big one, the Grand National on Saturday, I'm going to back Discorama for Paul Nolan. So he finished 7th in this last year, ran well for a long way and kind of just faded. He's a little bit better off this year. He's targeted at the race. I think he'll go well. He's 40-1. You'll probably get bigger on the day, and you'll get firms out there throwing out kind of 7, 8, 9, 10 places. So if you can get anything from kind of 33s to 40s, 7 or 8 places, I think he's a great bet. He jumped for fun, and he cruised into contention last year and then just didn't make it home. So said if they can have him a little bit fresher, I think he made one mistake last year in his jump, and if you can avoid that again, he should run a big race. So they're the two I've picked out in the early markets at Aintree.
Yeah, it all sounds very promising, and I do love the prices that you're throwing out there, so I will definitely be dabbling in those as well. So yeah, you're right about Cheltenham as well. It's very tough to sea of information as you referred to it. So I think this is a better targeted week for us at sportsrundown.com. This one with Aintree and the Grand National coming up. So the last thing on the agenda here tonight is any long shots. Long shots is probably not the right phrase. We'll have to fix that for future weeks. Anything in the kind of long out there, Gary? Anything next weekend, football or anything like that catches you price-wise? I've had a look around myself at the Premier League, the Serie A, and in Belgium. But Belgium's not priced up, and then in the Serie A and the Premier League, none of the odds really catch my eye. Lazio or even money away to Genoa next week. That looks like a good shout, but Genoa are playing tonight, so I'm going to have to wait and see. And other than that, nothing really tickles my fancy so far.
The only thing I looked at was, and again, I'd be hoping that this doesn't happen, but Brentford look a decent price against West Ham. They're 7-4 to beat West Ham. We've said it before on the website and on the bet alongs that we've been doing for Sports Rundown, that teams that play in Europe, the game after can be tough. It's an early kickoff on a Sunday. Brentford are coming off beating Chelsea. They're going to have a full week of prep. West Ham are going to have the highs of playing Lyon, and we don't know what the result is going to be. But they're going to, worst case scenario, be looking forward to the second leg of that game. And I just think it kind of, all roads lead to a big performance for Brentford. Brentford beat West Ham earlier in the season as well. So yeah, 7-4 looks a big price there, but haven't had a chance to look at much else. I said the midweek EFL card kind of took up most of my time on the analysis, and then throw in Aintree and a couple more. It's a lot to look at. So yeah, that's the only thing I've had a look at for the weekend. Yeah,
but the same angle. I haven't really thought about it until you're saying it now. But Crystal Palace are 9-4 away to Leicester. Leicester had a tough match. I don't know if you watched the game against United. Like, it was a full-on match for 90 minutes. They weren't able to cruise into this week at all. They're playing in the Conference League on Thursday, and then same early kickoff same Sunday kickoff as West Ham Brentford. So could be another angle there. I mean, outside 2-1 for Palace, like you said. I mean, regardless what happens tomorrow against Arsenal, they certainly have good capacity, and they're going to play 7 days rest, unlike Leicester, who will have had United, Old Trafford, Conference League, and then this. So it could be a tasty double there. The two of those together, probably about probably to go to 10-1. So we keep an eye on that for next weekend. All right, well, that's the wrap of the show there. So before we wrap it up, one bet during the week, Gary. I think I know what you're going to pick, but what's your single bet? If you could put one bet on this week.
One bet would be both teams to score in Forest Green and Mansfield.
Yeah, and I'll add that to it, and even money over 2.5 and both teams to score in Leipzig Atalanta on Thursday night. So the two of those together will be our bets of the week, and we'll be back at the same time next week for another preview of the hectic sporting calendar that we have between now and the summer. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, everyone.